Hello everyone and welcome to a new video from your Overwatch. I'm Eddie the Chump and today we're going to be talking about the new Torbjorn rework. Jeff Goodman gave an interview with the website VG247 where he discussed the team's new vision for the character and the direction that they're going to be taking him in. Now there is quite a lot of crossover with what we reported from a Seagull Stream interview that we covered a few weeks back. But there are some new things as well, so without any more ado, let's jump straight into it. Firstly, let's talk about the goals of the rework. In the team's minds, they want to move Torb away from being too defensively focused. There obviously isn't a defense category anymore, and every hero in the damage slot has to compete somewhat for a pick based on their situational applicability. The new sim also has this challenge, and as is, they feel Torb has some weaknesses that need addressing. Jeff had this to say: "We need him to be more viable on offense in a non-payload situation. It doesn't mean he needs to be equal on offense, but we need him at least to not be a troll pick." As the article points out, a lot of that is due to how his power level isn't consistent from the start of a match. With current Torb, you have to spend time getting his utility up to full potency, and some of it, like armor packs which require scrap, can't be accessed until the match is well underway. The end result being that Torb is a little bit too reliant on Molten Core. Jeff said that because of these mechanics, Torb feels a little bit too feast and famine, and that's what they're mainly trying to address. The team are experimenting with having his turrets be a throwable object, much like a Tracer Pulse Bomb in terms of distance. In their current internal build, the turret will then auto-level itself to level 2. Now Jeff details that it does take a bit of time to do that, it's not instant, and the goal is to make him more independent so he doesn't have to sit there hammering away to make it useful. Jeff notes that creating that extra angle of damage while continuing to fight yourself feels powerful, and obvious concerns about balance are not going to be ignored. If the turret proves to be way too lethal like this, they're obviously going to tune it back. Which is wise in my opinion, because I don't think people really take into account how strong automatic damage mechanics can be. Having any damage that doesn't require aim and that can just function independently can mess with a whole load of hero interactions, especially at lower levels of play, where players' mechanics might struggle to compete with that. Those concerns aside, I do like this change. I think the traditional builder hero archetype doesn't make much sense anymore in a game where most heroes have instant access to value with the use of a single cooldown. The question then becomes, what do they do with Torb's current ultimate Molten Core, as they previously said they want to move him away from his dependence on it. In the Seagull interview, Jeff did briefly mention that they were toying around with perhaps lowering its power and making it an ability, like mid-fight res for Mercy. At the time, I imagined it working similar to Orisa's Fortify, whereby Torb would activate it and get a small timed buff to damage resistance or increased damage output, something like that. Jeff notes they've tried a lot of different variations and had this to say: "First thing we did was try a lot of different takes on Molten Core. Maybe we could make it really cheap and take some stuff away from it. We tried it so it only affects the turret and doesn't give you any buffs, and we tried it the reverse so it only affects you." So they've tried keeping it as an ult but making it less potent, they've experimented with making it a regular cooldown, and it seems at the current moment they're actually thinking about moving away from it entirely. Jeff even says so in the article. So Molten Core no more? If that's the case, then he would obviously need an entirely new ultimate, which I'll get to in a minute. The overall takeaway from all this is that the rework is still very much a work in progress and we won't be seeing it anytime soon. In fact, they haven't even started working on art assets for his new functionality, they're still working on tying down the big gameplay design decisions. So let's explore what we do currently know and what's reasonable to speculate on. Torb will have a castable turret as one ability, and it's highly likely he'll keep his armor packs as the other. His new ult, as we've discussed, is a complete mystery. Let's focus on his main kit for a moment. Scrap acquisition is a key part of how he works, but really, that also contributes to his feast and famine nature. It's not an absolutely guaranteed resource. He can't start handing out armor the moment the game begins. He has to wait to get value out of them. He does passively generate scrap, but at quite a slow rate, and I think the reason for that is extra armor, as we found out with other heroes like Brigitte, can be very difficult to deal with. It's not just extra health, it's much better than that. I think Blizzard will be very wary of ever adding in easier access to yet even more armor. If I had to guess, both by my own intuition and the fact that they've not really talked about his armor packs in any of the interviews, this mechanic will remain with him. They said they want to make him better in different situations, less boom and bust, but I expect his new turret to carry a lot of that weight. If they changed his armor packs to a cooldown, say, to completely remove his ramp up to value, and you could just leave spawn and give your Zen or Mercy an extra 75 armor, that could be hilariously overpowered. I do think it's important at this juncture to manage our expectations a little bit. I don't think Torb is suddenly going to be a hero that's viable in absolutely every situation. I think he's going to be better rounded for sure, but still niche. This is where Sim's rework becomes useful as a reference, I think. She's a lot more active with her new kit, she does things nobody else can thanks to her teleporter, but she still remains a utility pick, not a ubiquitous one. The new Torb will be like that too. I'd argue he was already more useful than old Sim ever was, but his rework isn't likely to make him replace meta DPS anytime soon. One thing I don't think people are taking into consideration, if his turret auto builds, what does Torb now do with his hammer? Is it relegated to just a fancy looking melee or repairing damaged turrets very occasionally? Would repairing them be worth it anyway if you could just throw out a new one on cooldown and have it build itself? And even if that did prove to be worth it because the turret's cooldown is so long, I thought the point of reworking the turrets was to separate him from having to constantly do that kind of action. I have seen some fun suggestions on Reddit and in our comments section where people have said his hammer should be able to heal robotic or omnic allies. So Orisa, Zenyatta, Bastion, Genji at an absolute push. Now I do like that idea, but I think it's pretty unlikely to happen. How useful would it really be, for instance? It's the very definition of niche. Mind you, having a Bastion on a car and a turret that he can both heal might be the most terrifying pirate ship comp I've ever heard of, so forget I said that. Personally, I'd like to see them use the hammer as a base for whatever his new ultimate becomes, as I think it's actually quite a big part of his character. A note on Molten Core very likely going away, I think the aesthetic aspects of it are really cool. I can understand getting rid of the functionality and giving him something else, but I really like how it makes him look and sound. Can that stay, please, Jeff? I have in my head images of popping ult and changing into like a mini Thor. I know Molten Core is not lightning based, but Torb is basically a small Viking anyway. Having a Norse god inspired ult would fit him quite well. I want to smite people, Jeff. Let Torb bring the doom. You could make it so that he fired streams of Molten Core at people using his hammer, doing damage over time and perhaps creating pools of super hot metal around their feet that was harmful to walk into, like an area denial mechanic. I'm just having fun with that, obviously, but if you're going to give him something completely new as an ult, there's a real opportunity to do something very cool. I think a mini Norse god mode is absolutely the way to go. What do you guys think? On the larger scale, are you happy that they're reworking Torb in this way? Do you think separating him from his turrets is the right direction to go in? Let me know in the comments, and if you have your own ideas about what his new ult should be, share them as well so we can all geek out together. And that's about it for today, guys. I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you never want to miss another video of ours again, please click the bell icon next to the subscribe button on our channel to join the notification squad. You'll be in great company. And finally, please follow the Your Overwatch Twitter. It's where you can find updates about new videos and other cool stuff. I've been Eddie the Chump, and until next time,